Welcome to Friday Night Chats with Garage Geek.
Come on, come on. Two hearts that beat as one. Two hearts. I need you. Two hearts that beat as one. Two hearts.
All right, that was Stacy Q, and I thought I'd open my show with a little bit of dance music. Last night, my husband and I went to the 80s Club, and we saw Stacy Q perform about 4 or 5 of her songs. Of course, she's a much older woman now. I'm actually not sure when this song came out. This song is really a big hit, but I don't think I'd ever heard it before. I think it was a huge hit in Mexico, and it's, of course, one of my husband's favorites. And so since I met him, of course, I've heard this song a gazillion times. And I actually quite like it for, it's a dance pop song. And we had a lot of fun. We went out, met a friend, had Mediterranean food, then went to the club, had a couple drinks, danced to a whole bunch of 80s songs, and then heard Stacy Q perform. It was a lot of fun. So that is the reason that I did not put my Friday night chat out on Friday. That's because we went out and had fun. But this is Saturday, and it's kind of like a Friday because I have Monday off, which is also so nice. Now, I'm kind of weirdly in the frame. I want to adjust this. Now I'm too low. Sorry, I should have done that before. All right, I've got so much stuff to talk about. And I've got a couple of things that are long-winded. So I'm going to save those for the end. So what I'm going to save for the end are some short stories that I read. I'm going to go over 5 CDs that I listened to, and I'm going to go through some comics that I read. So it's going to be in the reverse order, probably comics, stories, and then the music. And so if you're interested in either one of those, you could jump, or any of those, you could jump to that part, and then if you're not interested in any of the others, well, then you know where to kind of cut off and jump off. Now, I've got a whole list of stuff here. So I want to start with showing some of my displays in my room. Now, my garage is such a mess. So I have to take pride in the little victories. And so I've been rearranging some of my displays. And so I'm going to show those off. So here is one display. Hold on, there's something on the screen. So here is one display. So in honor of Sleepy Reader, who is going to send me some Spirit magazines, which I'm so thankful for, because I'm going to talk about the Spirit later. But I got a Spirit lot of books, and in it was 4 of the Warren magazines. And I think I got 1, 2, 3, and 5. And he's got doubles of the first 16. So he's going to give me number 4, which I want the most because that's the one I'm missing in a run. And then he's going to give me the other ones. And I'm so thankful for that. And in his honor, I put up a shrine to him. So he gave me these Red Rocket comics. They're so cool. And that's Michael Allred art. And so I put up a display with Mike Allred near my door. Right. So that's my first display. Now, the next display, I don't want to show that yet. So my next display is kind of what's behind me. So I may have talked about this last week, but on the top row, I have my Spider-Man villains, mostly the Sinister Six. Now, the real sad tragedy of this whole thing is I do not have a Green Goblin. I have a Green Goblin from the movie, and it's the cartoon, and it's a Green Goblin that's actually he was transformed because he's from an alternate universe, and so he's actually like a real goblin, and that's not what I want. So I'm looking for the Green Goblin that relates to the original comics. I recently got a more realistic Mysterio, because the one that I originally had was also from the movie, I think Far From Home, with Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. Anyways, that one isn't also like the original. So I don't know. When it comes to these Funkos, I'm a little bit of a purist. And then in the bottom, I have, of course, the Fantastic Four in the middle with some of their villains. I have more like, for example, I have the Silver Surfer. Oh, no, he's there. I have, I don't know, I have like one or two more that can't all fit on that shelf. And then the next one I want to show is I have 11 Iron Maiden, and I have 3 of them in the box, and I'm thinking the boxes probably have to go, right? Because I got rid of the boxes on the other ones. I actually like these boxes, but they just don't fit. And so I'm going to have to take these out of the boxes. But the problem is, I don't think all 11 will actually fit on the shelves. So I don't know like how I'm going to do that. Maybe I'm going to have to divide them into 5 and 5. Well, 5 and 5 is 10, 6 and 5. I don't know. What do you think? Keep the boxes, keep it like that. Get rid of the boxes, split them up. I don't know. I need help on that one. So I need a little bit of audience participation with that display when it comes to my Iron Maiden Funko Pops. Okay. I bought some. I'm gonna actually keep my iPad charging. So I'm gonna, after when I'm not using it, I'm gonna kind of stick it back in. So I got some albums. Now, I know this is kind of like show and tell. I went shopping, I think it was last week. Oh, my husband wanted to go out for coffee. And so the record store is right across the street from the coffee shop. So we stopped in. And I bought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I bought 5 albums. I spent $47. So I want you to tell me if you like what I bought and if it was money well spent. The first one is The Best of Sam Cooke. Now, I had this CD, I believe, and I love this album. I have other Sam Cooke, but this was the first one I heard, and every song in it's a banger. And I mean, look at that yellow background. It was $10, but it's a reissue, so it's in, I was going to say pristine. It's in mint or pristine condition. I mean, look at this gorgeous album. I'm so happy to get that in my collection. Next, Joan Baez 5. Now, I'm more than happy to just have Joan Baez on CD. Okay, I do like her a lot. I especially like Diamonds and Rust. But the cover on this is just so evocative. And you know what? It reminds me of a lot of the places that I've been to in San Francisco, where you go along the coast, and yeah, it just looks like that. And I also one time went up the coast of Oregon, and it looked like that a lot. And a couple of trips that I've taken to those. I'm going on and on. This picture or cover is just very evocative of times that I've seen the coast. And I just think it's hard to see it properly. Let me take it out of that bag. It's just such a great cover. And so I wanted that, and I paid $7 for it. There's the back. It's got this little tape though, but whatever, it's the back. I still have a little bit of cough. That's why my laugh is truncated. Okay, the next one my husband didn't want me to buy. He wanted me to put it back, so that's why I was adamant to get it. This is Granada Segovia, and I really like the art on that. And that one was $6. I haven't played any of these yet, by the way. So obviously this one is classical music. Now watch it be not classical music, and then I said obviously. Okay, the next one I also paid $6 for, and that is The Tramps, Disco Inferno. Look at those outfits, so awesome. Okay, so some of these songs were used, I believe, in the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. Disco Inferno. I don't know if any of the others are, but I'm looking forward to discovering this album. But I loved that cover. And then finally, I bought the Straubs Hero and Heroine. And this one I have to thank Square the Circle for, because he mentioned it, and then I listened to it. And I do like this album. It's nice. It's not something that I had to absolutely buy on album, except I really like the cover art. And so I would have been happy to get this on CD, but that cover art is just so cool. So there you go. Hero and heroine. My husband, like, what is that? Like, he had to look at it. It's actually a dove. Like, if you can't tell right out the bat, being released or even returning. I'm not sure. So there you go. 5 albums that I bought, spending a total of $47. What do you think? DJ Trish sent me a mix CD for Christmas, and I actually had this a week or 2 weeks ago, and I'm sorry I forgot to mention it. It's so cool. There's the track list if you want to pause. I mean, so many cool songs for Christmas, and I love Christmas music. So thank you so much, DJ Trish, for that. I want to show that Criterion put out their announcements for what they're going to be releasing, and what I would really... Hold on, I'm having trouble getting there we go. What of all their releases, this is the one I would like the most, but it's a double, so it's a little bit expensive. But man, do I love these movies. It's Jean de Florette and Manon of the Spring. Manon the Source. And if you've never seen these movies, number one, you have to watch both. You can appreciate each one because they've got, like, I don't know much about French actors, to be honest with you, but these are powerhouse French actors, and the movies are just so good. And you have to watch both because they tell like a circular story complete. I'm not going to ruin it. If you've never seen these movies, these are musts. These are, both of them, 5-star movies that I think that everyone should see. They're that good. So at some point I will own that on the Criterion collection. So bravo to you, Criterion, for putting those out. The last thing for show and tell is I have a couple comics that are going to people. So I just kind of wanted to show them off. So this one, let's start with this one. This one is going to, I'm drawing a blank on the name, Stevie D. Okay, Comics with Stevie D, right? So he just sent me a package. It's coming in the mail, but it hasn't arrived yet. But he talked on his channel how he is collecting Tales of Suspense, and he doesn't have this one. It's the only one that I own, and it's a cool comic. I don't mind sending that to him because he's collecting them. And so there you go, Stevie D. Pretty soon you're going to own that comic. I'm also looking for 2 facsimile editions of the Tales of Suspense because he lives really far from a comic book store and he can't get to comic book stores regularly. And so 2 Tales of Suspense were put out in facsimile editions, and I'm going to get those to make sure that I send them to him. And I love the facsimile editions. They look so pristine. And so the next comic is Just Married. And this one is going to go to Donald Rex. And so this one is coming your way, Donald. Also a Warlock comic, which I couldn't find, but that one's set aside for you. I'm notorious for doing that. So he doesn't have this one, and I picked it up, and so I'm very happy to send that his way. So those are some comics that are going to be going out. Also, Judy, I haven't forgotten. I am going to send you some CDs. She wants some CDs for her road trips, and I've got a whole bunch of CDs that don't have covers, and but they're really good, but they don't have the covers, or will be perfect for keeping in one of those little booklets that you keep in your car. So I haven't forgotten. I am going to get you that. Oh, I also wanted to show this off. So this is the 80s Club wristband saying that you could drink or whatever, or that you've paid entrance, and it reminds me of the DC Go-Go checks. So anyways, now we're gonna move on to some shows that I watched. Now the biggest one was, I was very curious about Severance on Apple TV. I've been hearing about it, kind of ignored it because I have Apple TV, and I finally decided to watch it. And wow, am I glad. This show blew me away. I had no expectations of it. And that's always the best way to watch a show. So it's sci-fi, but not spaceship sci-fi. It's really good. And I'm not going to talk about it too much because I think you should just take my word that you should watch it. Now, I told my daughter to watch it, and she watched the first episode, and she was like, it's a little bit slow. And I was saying to myself, you've got to give it to at least the second or the third episode. By the third episode, I was hooked, and I binged the rest of the season. It's so good. And it's basically, as you could tell from this, a lot of it takes place in an office. So if you're interested in weird sci-fi, or if you're interested in like office politics that are kind of like really, really strange, you should watch Severance. And I think even if you don't like sci-fi, you should watch Severance. This show is so good. I don't know. I can't recommend it highly enough. I loved this show so much. And just in time, because they just released the season 2 first episode, which I haven't watched yet. And they also did a pop-up in New York. So I'm going to show a little clip of the 4 characters. So the 4, they're not the main characters, but the 4 office workers. They did a pop-up in I think, Grand Central Station. They put them in a cube, and they put their office, like, right in the cube, and they were just pretending like no one was there, like they were in the office. Pretty cool, if you ask me. But I'm going to show a scene, and it just shows how wacky this show is. They met their quota, and so they got a reward. And the reward was a pop-up dance party. And their office manager, you're going to see him in the video. He's dancing around. And man, is he hot. When he's dancing in this video, I could not stop watching him. Plus, it's so weird. Go ahead and watch this scene. Wait, I got to get it back to the beginning. Here we go. Now, this scene goes on for quite a while. Like, they danced to almost the whole song. And the guy who, the office manager, the one who's dancing around, he is so good in this scene. If nothing else, you should just watch that scene. It's hilarious. And it's such a bizarre show, but it's so good. I'm just gushing about the show. I think everybody should watch it. Now, the next show that we watched is... my husband and I, we drove all the way down Sunset, I believe, to see what was going on with the Hollywood fires. We didn't make it all the way, but we were seeing the billboards, and they're huge billboards always on Sunset. And they were advertising the show The Traitors, which I think is on its 3rd season. So we decided to start watching it. And we watch it before bed, and then after that, I read. So this show is like the perfect kind of winding down. It's kind of brainless, but exciting at the same time. It's reality TV shows where they invent this craziness and drama. And the setup of the show is they put this whole group of people, and they randomly pick 3 of them to be traitors. And whoever survives until the end, either the traitors or they call the faithful, whichever group survives, they get the money. And so the traitors are intent on backstabbing everyone and not being found out that they're the actual traitors. And the strength of this show is you just watch week after week as everybody gangs up and turns on one person. And we know who the traitors are, and we watch them pick apart and tear apart an innocent individual. It's horrific. Like, they go after these people and they justify every little action that they do and try to justify why that person is a traitor. And they're like almost begging. They're like, no, I swear to you, I'm not a traitor. They're crying. And everyone's like, no, you're a traitor. And man, it's brutal. It's like the worst of humanity being played out, just for money. It's pretty insane and enjoyable. I don't I don't know if that sounds enjoyable to you, but it's stressful because you really feel bad for these people who are, trying to get through this game and just being torn apart. And everyone, they had friends, they had allies, they just all turn on them. Yeah, it's pretty horrific. So the show The Traitors, I think, should be banned because it really shows what humans are capable of. All right. So I talked about shows, Traitors. So later in the show, I am going to be talking about 5 CDs. And I picked, I remember, I have to remember to talk, to show things a little bit more slowly. So I have this series of magazines, and this one is the 500 greatest albums of the 2000s. And I didn't know they had those. And I've been talking about the other decades, and I got to around 495. So what I decided to do was catch up on this decade and listen to the ones that I hadn't covered in my other videos. And so I'm going to go over those 5 albums later in the video. All right. Next, I'm going to talk about some books that I read, and that's not going to include the short stories. I'm going to go over those in more depth at the end of the show. So I listened to 3 different books. So the first one was Butcher's Moon, which is the 16th book in the Richard Stark novels, the Parker novels. So this one is like the last book of the original series, the 16th. And then the author takes like a 20-year break before he brings Parker back. And he kind of wanted this to be the end. And it's interesting because it's almost double the length of all the other books. Not all combined, but this one was about 8 hours. And the other ones are usually around 4. And an interesting thing that he did is he changed Parker's motivation. In this book, Parker wants to commit a crime for revenge. And he brings in a lot of the criminals from all the other books. And so it's pretty interesting because he calls up all these people and he arranges for them to come. And these are all characters that we've met throughout all the other 15 books. It was pretty neat. And this book was, again, just like all the other ones, very, very enjoyable. I'm looking forward to reading the next one, or listening to the next one, which takes place after a 20-year break. The next one I listened to, I'm kind of on an Asimov kick right now. And while I'm reading his short stories, I thought I would listen to some of his books too. So I have this 3-book set. I know everyone out there is going to be so jealous because look at these gorgeous books. They're awesome. And so I don't know if they're strictly a trilogy. And I'm going to talk about why in a second. But they're all kind of preludes to the Foundation and the Trantor things. This is supposed to take place way back in its history. So the first one that I listened to is called The Stars Like Dust. And while this is enjoyable, it seemed very young adult to me. And it's by no means a bad book. But it's a boy, well, I should say a young man whose father is wrongly accused and who has to go on the run, and he meets a princess and he has to save her, and she ends up, helping to save him, and it's all this like love, going back and forth, and it's very YA, to be honest with you, although I will say it's not bad. It's just not anything like the short stories that I've been reading. So This one is the second one. It's called The Currents of Space, and I actually started this. And this one, I'm an hour into it, and there's 7 hours total. And I'm an hour into it, and I was hooked. I was hooked from the beginning. So at the beginning, this man gets his mind erased because he has knowledge that people don't want shared. And I mean, that's like this really, really intriguing beginning to me. And we jump ahead, I think, I don't know, a year, and he's recovering from this, but he doesn't have any memory. They're just like, he had to learn how to talk again, had to learn how to walk again. It's such a really interesting beginning, and I want to know where this is going. And then the final one will be Pebble in the Sky. Of course, I don't know what that one's about yet. So there you have 3 Isaac Asimov books. I read one of them, and I started the next one. So you'll be hearing about the second one probably next week. And the third book I read was called The Sins of the Fathers. And this one is by Lawrence Block. Now, I read this one because it's the first in a series of Matthew Scudder mysteries. And Lawrence Block wrote the introduction to Butcher's Moon. And he was talking about how they would get together, Lawrence Block, and the author of the Parker novels, Richard Stark, how they would get together and hash out ideas and talk about everything. And I became really interested, and I'd never read anything by him. So I read this. It was a 4-hour book, very quick read. I was hooked. It's told from the point of view of a private investigator who is trying to investigate the murder of a young woman that seems to be an open and shut case, but the father wants to know more about the daughter because she was estranged, and he wants to know what she was like and what led up to her being murdered. And of course, this makes the whole case unravel, and just his thought processes and everything that he goes through. I was hooked. Really, really good mystery. I think I'm really starting to get into these mystery writers or crime. I don't know if it's mystery or crime or both. And that is the end. Now, before I get on to the long-winded stuff, I want to talk about 3 news events. And the first one, which I was supposed to mention last week, is the death of Peter Yarrow from Peter, Paul, and Mary. So I've made it quite clear that I really, really like Peter, Paul, and Mary. I've seen them a few times in concert. Not for a long time, but I saw them, at least 3 times, maybe more like 5. And I really like their sound, the way they harmonize. But I did not know that he was involved in a lot of controversy. He did some very questionable things with young women who came to his hotel room quite a few times. He was pardoned by, I think, Jimmy Carter or one of the presidents. It's all very sketchy. There's going to be another one that I talk about where you have these artists that you really respect, and then you find out things about them later in their career or after they've passed. And I'm going to say that I'm still going to enjoy Peter, Paul, and Mary's music. Despite this, there are just some things that, you can't control, and I'm not the type that cancels somebody because they made some mistakes. He did come out and say that when he was young, he made a lot of mistakes. He said it doesn't forgive what he did. It was a different time. He says that doesn't forgive it. But he came out and apologized. I mean, I don't know the situation behind his apology. Maybe he was forced. I don't know. I know different people have different reactions to those kind of things. Like, a lot of people just cancel them outright. And that's going to bring me to Neil Gaiman. So a lot of controversy is going around about Neil Gaiman, who has made some of the greatest comic book art stories in comic history, right? And so there's a lot of articles online about what do we do now that we know what he was involved in? And there are allegations, right? A number of women have come forth saying that he did some pretty horrible things against their will. He denies it. He says some things did happen. There's a kernel of truth. But for the most part, I think people believe the women. And so it's coloring how do we respond to works of art that we love, right, when we know such and such about the actual authors of these things. It's a difficult question. And a couple articles I read, they put different scenarios, like this is how we should react, this is how we could react, not should, this is how we could react, this is how we could react, this is how we could react, right? And for me, I've always been, for the most part, I've always been able to separate the art from the artist. I know if the crimes are too heinous, that can't be done. And these allegations are pretty bad. So I don't know. That one's a tough one, like a really tough one. And the last news event that I want to talk about is the death, of course, of David Lynch. Now, David Lynch is, I don't even know how to start. So when I was very young, I don't know, like maybe 11, my older brother had a fake ID for me, and he took me to a midnight showing. He also took me to a couple bars when I was that young, like 12. He had a fake ID and snuck me into bars with him. I don't know, like, what was going on, but yeah, okay, that just happened. So anyways, he took me to a midnight showing of Eraserhead, and it had a cartoon feature before the movie. And the cartoon feature, I don't know what that cartoon was, but it was a woman with a whole bunch of vegetables. And that's all I'm going to say. If anybody knows what that cartoon is, please let me know, because I would love to watch it now, because it certainly made an impact on me as a kid. But all I can say about seeing Eraserhead at that young age on a huge screen, right, at a midnight showing, was the sound and the images. David Lynch uses sound to great effect in his movies, and seeing it in a theater or with surround sound, like Eraserhead is so powerful, and it's so strange. Like, I will never forget the lady in the radiator. I mean, she's part of my psyche. She was burned into my brain at a young age. That movie is just crazy. And that baby, no, that movie is crazy. And it's actually on HBO Max, and I might watch it tonight. But that's not talking about Twin Peaks. When Twin Peaks came out, it's hard to like understand like what a phenomenon that was and how it changed TV. I remember I had a part-time job, and I remember I think I was in school, or I'm not sure, college. And I remember talking about it like week after week, like everybody was so intrigued. And when that dream sequence came out where gosh, I hate to say midget, like that's such a, I don't know, where the short guy in the episode was talking backwards, and it was just, that was like so weird for primetime television. Like, David Lynch changed the landscape of TV, and his movies are just so interesting. I remember I saw Mulholland Drive, and I was young, and I couldn't appreciate it. It was just too weird. Now, Patricia Arquette, I'm pretty sure Patricia Arquette's in Mulholland Drive. I need to watch it again because I love her. And she's also in something else that I talked about today, but I'm not going to spoil it. Because when I saw Patricia Arquette, one of my favorites, and I saw her on screen, I was like, oh, yes. So, I don't know. A lot of people are paying tribute to David Lynch. Such a great director. And of course, Oh wait, was it David Lynch or was it Jonathan Demme? Now I'm not sure. Both of them used Chris Isaac in their movies, and of course you gotta love that. So, all right, now we're down to the three long-winded topics, and I'm already at 35 minutes. I'm wondering if I should make a part two, because when I make really long videos, it's hard to upload them. I mean, they take forever for me to upload these videos. So I'm wondering if I should just go ahead and stop this one and then start part two. I think I'm going to do that. Sorry, everybody. I know a lot of you like when the videos are longer. You do. And I get it, because you could just put it on and listen to it. But for some reason, I have difficulty they take sometimes all night, and they stall and they fail, and I have to do it again, sometimes 2 or 3 times. I don't know why that is. So I'm going to save myself the headache, and I'm going to end part 1, and then I'm going to go ahead and start for part 2. What are you going to see in part 2? I'm going to talk about some CDs I listened to, a lot of comics that I read, The Spirit mostly, and also a bunch of short stories that I read. I want to thank everyone for your support, and I hope that you are down for part 2.